Today's lesson is going to focus on finding volume of 3 different three-dimensional figures. Before we talk about those formulas, I want to recap 2 vocabulary words that we talked about in the previous lessons, as well as introducing our new word, which is volume. Volume refers to the amount of space in a three-dimensional figure. So if I had a box and I filled it up with water, the water is representing the volume inside of my three-dimensional figure, right? It's the space inside your 3D figure. Okay, to recap what a 3D figure looks like, right? It has 3 dimensions. That's also super important to note. We're now in a 3-dimension process, right? Circumference is 1 dimension, area is 2. Now we're moving into volume, which is 3-dimensional. This would be a 3D figure, obviously not perfect. I would make yourself a little note that the units in 3-dimensional figures are 3 dimensions. So for example, I start with a unit of centimeters. It would be centimeters cubed if I'm talking about the volume. Second word I want to review is radius. Radius refers to the distance from the center of your circle to the edge. So if I were to draw a circle here and I have a radius starts in the center and it goes to the edge of my circle. Last word to recap is diameter. Diameter refers to the distance from edge to edge passing through the center of your circle. So if I drew a circle here and I picked one edge of my circle and I went through my center to the other edge, that would be the diameter. So let's get started on finding volume of 3-dimensional figures. All right, so here are our 3 three-dimensional figures. First one is called a cylinder. Second one is called a cone. And third one is called a sphere. Not a spear, but a sphere. Okay, so how do I find volume of a cylinder? Well, the formula is pi times my radius squared times height, which really is just the area of the base times the height. How do I find volume of a cone? Well, volume of a cone is 1/3 pi times radius squared times height. And how do I find volume of a sphere? Well, sphere is 4/3 pi r cubed. Now, I know I didn't go over how these formulas developed, but I would encourage you at some point to maybe do some research and see how all of these figures are actually related. Knowing how to find volume of a cylinder actually helps you to derive the formula for a cone and a sphere. It's kind of cool. All right, so let's put our volume formulas to the test. Looking at my figure here, we have to ask ourselves, what shape do I have? Well, this shape is a cylinder. Okay, so if I have to find the volume of this, well, I got to figure out what's my formula for volume of a cylinder. Well, volume of a cylinder is pi times radius squared times height. See, this is where writing it down will be helpful, so make sure you have that written down, okay? So what do I know about this lovely cylinder here? Well, let's look a little closer. I know that this guy right here, see this little guy right here? Ooh, what does he remind you of? This is the radius. I'm gonna make a little note to myself. The radius here is equal to 6 meters. Okay, so I know that about my cylinder. Then let's look at my other dimension here. This, ooh, oh, I don't like that one. I want to do this. This, ooh, yeah, okay. That refers to my height. And my height here is equal to 11 meters. Okay, so let's look at my question. It wants me to find the volume. So what 2 pieces do I need? Well, let's see. I need an R, which is also known as a radius. So do I have that? Yep, right here, 6 meters. And I also need a height. That's what H stands for. Do I have a height? Oh, yep, right here, 11 meters, right? So let's go ahead and plug those into our formula. We know that volume is equal to 3.14 times my radius. Well, what's my radius? 6. So I'm going to take that and square it. And then I'm going to take that and times it by my height, which we know is 11 meters. Okay? This is where PEMDAS is super important because you have to follow the order, otherwise you won't get the right answer. Okay? So the very first thing I want to do is I want to do what is being squared, right? My exponent. So I'm going to do 6 squared, which we know to be 36, and then rewrite my equation. So now I have 3.14 times 36 times 11. So in my calculator, I'm going to type in 3.14 times 36, which is 113.04, and times that by 11, and that's going to give me a super, super large number. That answer is 1,243.44 meters cubed, because remember, volume is 3 dimensions. Next example, what do we have here? What picture? What is the shape? Ooh, I remember. It's a cone. Trying to throw me off, making it on its side. Ugh. Let's look at my cone here. What is the formula for volume of a cone? Well, let's think. Volume is equal to, and I probably should have my notes out because that's going to help me, 1/3 times pi times r squared times my height. Okay? All right, so I need a radius and I need a height. So let's look at my cone. Okay. If I look closely, I notice I have this distance from edge to edge, okay? So that edge to edge, oh, that is my diameter. And my diameter is equal to 6. Well, that's not helpful because I need the radius. So how am I going to find the radius? Let's see. I know that radius is half the diameter, so 6 divided by 2, right? So my radius here is 3. All right, so now that I know what my radius is, let's see if I have a height. Well, if I look closely here, top of my cone to the bottom of my cone, that is 6. So I know that my height is equal to 6. All right, so now if the radius is 3 and the height is 6, let's plug it into my formula and solve. Here we go. Volume is equal to 1/3 times 3.14 times my radius, which is 3. Square my radius and times that by my height, which is 6. All right, PEMDAS, we got to do that again. So we're first going to square it. So this is going to be 3 squared, which is 9, and then times that by 6. Okay, so there's a couple ways that we can solve the rest of this equation, okay? One method is to type into our calculator 1 divided by 3 and then hit the equal sign. Times that by 3.14, times that answer by 9, and times that answer by 6. And we should get the volume is equal to 56.52 miles cubed. Okay, so that's one way that we could simplify, right? Another way you can kind of look at this problem, and I'm going to rewrite it over here so that we have some room, is multiplying parts of it first and then kind of breaking it down. So one thing I could do first is taking all of these numbers and multiplying them by each other, right? So 3.14 times 9, that gives me an answer, times that answer by 6, right? And I get an answer of 169.56, right? That's what this simplifies to. But I'm still left with this 1/3, okay? So how could I simplify this further? Well, there's this imaginary 1 that's hidden underneath 169.56. Thinking about how to solve, we take our numerators and multiply those two numbers together, and then we take the denominator and multiply them together, right? So in the numerator, I'm going to get 1 times 169.56, and that's 169.56. And then I'm going to get 3 times 1, which is just 3, right? So now I have my volume is equal to 169.56 divided by 3. And when I divide that through, you should get the same volume, which is 56.52 miles cubed. Okay? 2 methods to simplify, all right? You choose what method works best for you. All right, last one. Oh my gosh, process of elimination. This is the sphere. Not the spear, but the sphere. Now, what is the formula for volume of a sphere? Well, I'm looking at my notes because I don't quite have it memorized just yet, but it's 4/3 pi r cubed based on my notes. So now, to find the volume of the sphere, I need look closely, a radius. So let's look at my sphere. Do I have a radius? Oh, lucky me, I have a radius here that is equal to 7 centimeters. So all I have to do is plug that into my formula. Volume is equal to 4/3 times 3.14 times my radius cubed. Now my radius is 7. I'm going to cube that. All right, so let's go ahead and do order of operations. 7 times 7 times 7. Woo, that's 343. So volume is equal to 4/3 times 3.14 times 343. Okay, so for this one, we can solve it 2 different ways as well. I could take into my calculator or type into my calculator 4 divided by 3, leave that answer, times that answer by 3.14, take that answer and times it by 343, and I should get a final answer of my volume is equal to 1,436.027 approximately, right? That's an approximation, centimeters cubed, right? So that's one way that I could simplify, right? Type 4 divided by 3, leave that long repeating decimal, times that long repeating decimal by 3.14, leave that answer in my calculator, and then times that answer by 343, right? Or there's another way that we can solve. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite this over here. And just like the problem before, we can focus on simplifying this little section first. Okay, so what is 3.14 times 343? That gives us an answer of 1,077.02, right? And that is going to be multiplied by 4/3. Okay, so again, like in our previous problem, this 1,077.02, that's over an imaginary 1. Okay, so we can multiply our numerators. We can multiply the denominators and simplify our problem. Well, what is 4 times 1,077.02? That answer is 4,308.08. And then what's 3 times 1? Well, that's 3. So now to simplify that further, we're going to take 4,308.08, divide that by 3, and we're going to get the same volume, 1,436.027 approximately centimeters cubed, right? So 2 different ways to simplify. You choose the method that works best for you. All right, so let's just quickly recap how to find volume of all 3 of these wonderful figures here. Cylinder, remember, volume is equal to pi times radius squared times my height. Remember, r equals radius and h equals height. Cone, volume is equal to 1/3 pi times radius squared times height. Another equation you might see for cone, which is the same thing, it's just written a different way, is volume is equal to pi times radius squared times height divided by 3. Okay, again, your radius is r, and the h is height. Okay? Last volume equation is going to be the sphere. That is, the volume is equal to 4/3 times pi times radius cubed. Or another way you could write that is volume is equal to 4 times times pi times radius cubed divided by 3. Right? Both of those equations mean the same thing. And again, r represents your radius. Keep in mind when you're solving problems like these, remember to follow PEMDAS so that you get the answer correctly.